under the fluorescent buzz of Terminal D at Atlanta International, one of the busiest travel hubs in the world. A current of urgency pulsed through the security checkpoint. Announcements crackled overhead, echoing across polished tile floors, and travelers shuffled in tightly packed queues, dragging suitcases and clutching passports. It was organized chaos, the kind that only airports knew how to maintain. And standing quietly in the middle of it all was a man who had once commanded entire battalions. 80-year-old Leonard Braxton, tall and steady despite the weight of his years, wore a dark green bomber jacket over a pressed button-down shirt, the edges of a well-worn military cap casting a shadow over his serious gaze. The words 82nd Airborne were stitched in fading gold across the front. His chocolate-brown skin was lined by time, but his posture remained impossibly straight. He had walked through jungles under fire, navigated diplomatic halls in silence, and stood his ground against enemies visible and invisible. This security line? It was a brief intermission. He clutched a manila envelope under one arm, labeled with the crest of the Veterans Aviation Leadership Conference. Inside were his prepared remarks. She was slated as keynote speaker in San Diego. His first great-granddaughter had made a drawing of him as a superhero for the event's pamphlet. It was folded neatly in his wallet. A few rows ahead, people argued over plastic bins and laptops. Behind him, a young couple whispered complaints about the wait. Leonard stood still, unbothered. He had waded through sniper fire before. Patience was his native tongue. Then came a shift in the air. A voice behind him, loud, authoritative, cutting through the murmur like a razor. "You there? Step out of the line." Leonard turned his head slightly, his expression unreadable. The voice belonged to Officer Chad Winslow, a 36-year-old TSA agent with a jawline like a cement block and the subtlety of a hammer. He wore mirrored sunglasses on his forehead despite being indoors. The man radiated the energy of someone who never outgrew high school football glory days. Winslow had failed out of the State Police Academy 3 times and landed at TSA as a second act. He treated the position not like a job but a badge of power. Leonard said nothing. "I said step out of the line. You hard of hearing?" He slowly turned to face the officer fully, his expression calm, lips neutral. "Is there a problem, officer?" Winslow closed the distance between them with exaggerated steps. "You're acting suspicious. I need to ask you some questions." "I have TSA pre-check," Leonard replied, voice steady, "and a flight to catch." Winslow waved a hand dismissively. "Doesn't matter. Let's go." Leonard lifted his envelope slightly. "Everything's in order." Winslow reached forward and grabbed Leonard by the arm. Not forcefully at first, but firm, possessive, public. Travelers nearby began to murmur. Cell phones came out wildly, like a rising tide. "Sir," Leonard said, eyes not flinching, "you'll want to remove your hand now." Winslow's grip tightened. "Or what?" "I'd rather not escalate this." Winslow smirked. "That sounds like a threat." From the far end of the terminal, another TSA agent glanced up. Agent Serena Patel, younger and newer, but already wary of Winslow's reputation. She nudged her supervisor, Assistant Director Carla Nunez, who started moving. Winslow yanked Leonard out of the line with a jerk. "You can explain yourself in secondary." Leonard didn't resist, but his eyes narrowed. Gaze steady on the younger man's face. "Do you know who I am?" he asked quietly. "I don't care." Winslow barked. "You're a passenger." "No," said a voice behind them, loud and clear. "He's not just a passenger." The crowd parted as Captain Nathaniel Carr, pilot for Western Skies Airlines, walked briskly toward them in full uniform. Silver wings gleamed against his crisp navy jacket. "Leonard Braxton is our keynote speaker in San Diego this weekend," Carr announced. "Decorated war hero, advisor to the National Security Council. He's also my personal guest on this flight." Winslow blinked. "Doesn't exempt him from protocol." "No," Carr said, "but it does mean you handle him with respect. Not like some criminal." Leonard stood, silent as ever, But in his stillness was the kind of presence that made others adjust their posture. More phones were out now. Several passengers had begun live streaming. A little girl whispered to her father, "That man's important." "Huh?" The father nodded slowly. A voice buzzed from Winslow's radio. "Officer Winslow. Report to Director Juno Rhodes immediately. Now." Winslow's jaw clenched. He let go of Leonard's arm reluctantly. "You people always think the rules don't apply," he muttered. Leonard raised an eyebrow. "And you think the rules are whatever you say they are?" Director Rhodes approached tall, composed, with eyes that missed nothing. "Officer Winslow," she said, clipped and direct. "You're suspended effective immediately. Your actions have been recorded and are under review. You can't be serious." "I'm very serious." Agent Patel, escort him off the floor. As Winslow was led away, Leonard sighed deeply, rubbing his arm briefly where the man had gripped him. "I apologize for this." "Colonel Braxton," Rhodes said, "would you come with me?" Leonard nodded. "Only if I still have time to catch my flight." "You'll have more than time. You'll have the respect you deserve." He was led not to a holding room, but a private VIP lounge overlooking the tarmac. There, Rhodes made an announcement through the airport's internal system, mandatory anti-bias retraining for all TSA staff. Beginning immediately. Leonard didn't cheer. He didn't even nod. He just watched. Later, as he was escorted to the gate by Captain Carr, a quiet ripple followed him. Not one of celebrity, but of recognition, of reverence. Young TSA officers straightened as he passed. Some saluted. He didn't return the salute, but gave a nod of acknowledgement to each one. Near the gate, a mother struggled with her baby, stroller, and 2 bags. Without a word, Leonard stepped in, lifted the stroller with one hand and steadied the toddler with the other. "Thank you," she said. Surprised, he smiled softly. "Always easier with 2. Before boarding, the airline staff asked if he would address the crew. Leonard thought for a moment, then agreed. He stood before them, not on a stage, just in front of the jetway. "I didn't serve so I could be worshipped. I served so people like you could do your jobs in peace, without fear. But peace doesn't come from silence. It comes from standing up even when you'd rather sit down. Today wasn't the first time I was disrespected. Won't be the last. But how we respond to it, that's the real mark of service." The flight crew stood in silence as he took his seat upgraded to first class. Though he hadn't asked for it, looked out the window. A small child across the aisle waved at him. He waved back. At cruising altitude, a call came through from the airport director. "Colonel Braxton, we're formally inviting you to consult on our security reform program." "I'll think about it," he said. After the flight landed, Leonard was met at the gate by event coordinators. But before leaving the jet bridge, he paused. The same mother from earlier gave him a grateful glance. Her son whispered, "Is he famous?" She knelt beside him. "He's what famous should be." And as Leonard walked toward the exit, envelope in hand, shoulders high, the crowd didn't part in fear or awe. They simply made room for someone who had already earned it. No noise, no spotlight, just the quiet gravity of a man whose silence always meant preparation, not surrender. And this time, the world had finally listened.